Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. The function of prayer is not to influence God, but rather to change the nature of the one who prays. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought which they seldom use. What if everything in the world were a misunderstanding? What if laughter were really tears? Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. My sorrow is my castle. What labels me negates me. Once you label me, you negate me. It is impossible to exist without passion. It is very important in life to know when your cue comes. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. Take away paradox from the thinker and you have a professor. I stick my finger into existence and it smells of nothing. The most common form of despair is not being who you are. To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. It is so hard to believe because it is so hard to obey. Leap of faith, yes, but only after reflection. Happiness is the greatest hiding place for despair. Hope is a passion for the possible. On the secretly blushing cheek is reflected the glow of the heart. My melancholy is the most faithful sweetheart I have had. Now with God's help I shall become myself. The tyrant dies and his rule is over. The martyr dies and his rule begins. Therefore do not deceive yourself. Of all deceivers, fear most yourself. If you want to be loathsome to God, just run with the herd. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have. It is the duty of the human understanding to understand that there are things which it cannot understand. Face the facts of being what you are, for that is what changes what you are. Many of us pursue pleasure with such breathless haste that we hurry past it. Boredom is the root of all evil, the despairing refusal to be oneself. The self-assured believer is a greater sinner in the eyes of God than the troubled disbeliever. A no does not hide anything, but a yes very easily becomes a deception. Once you are born in this world, you're old enough to die. I feel as if I were a piece in a game of chess when my opponent says of it, that piece cannot be moved. The highest and most beautiful things in life are not to be heard about, nor read about, nor seen, but, if one will, are to be lived. To cheat oneself out of love is the most terrible deception. It is an eternal loss for which there is no reparation, either in time or in eternity. People understand me so poorly that they don't even understand my complaint about them not understanding me. If anyone on the verge of action should judge himself according to the outcome, he would never begin. To venture causes anxiety, but not to venture is to lose oneself, and to venture in the highest is precisely to be conscious of oneself. The Bible is very easy to understand, but we Christians are a bunch of scheming swindlers. We pretend to be unable to understand it because we know very well that the minute we understand, we are obliged to act accordingly. In addition to my other numerous acquaintances, I have one more intimate confidant. My depression is the most faithful mistress I have known. No wonder, then, that I return the love. Love is the expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. Those who think they can love only the people they prefer do not love at all. Love discovers truths about individuals that others cannot see. The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all. No other loss can occur so quietly. Any other loss, an arm, a leg, $5, a wife, etc., is sure to be noticed. I see it all perfectly. There are two possible situations. One can either do this or that. My honest opinion and my friendly advice is this: do it or do not do it. You will regret both. What is existence for but to be laughed at if men in their 20s have already attained the utmost? With every increase in the degree of consciousness, and in proportion to that increase, the intensity of despair increases. The more consciousness, the more intense the despair. If anyone on the verge of action should judge himself according to the outcome, he would never begin. Even though the result may gladden the whole world, that cannot help the hero, for he knows the result only when the whole thing is over. And that is not how he became a hero, but by virtue of the fact that he began. The daily press is the evil principle of the modern world, and time will only serve to disclose this fact with greater and greater clearness. The capacity of the newspaper for degeneration is sophistically without limit, since it can always sink lower and lower in its choice of readers. At last, it will stir up all those dregs of humanity which no state or government can control. Out of love for mankind and out of despair at my embarrassing situation, seeing that I had accomplished nothing and was unable to make anything easier than it had already been made, and moved by a genuine interest in those who make everything easy, I conceived it as my task to create difficulties everywhere. What is youth? A dream. What is love? The dream's content. People understand me so little that they do not even understand when I complain of being misunderstood. It is a frightful satire and an epigram on the modern age that the only use it knows for solitude is to make it a punishment, a jail sentence. When one has once fully entered the realm of love, the world, no matter how imperfect, becomes rich and beautiful. It consists solely of opportunities for love. To be lost in spiritlessness is the most terrible thing of all. For he who loves God without faith reflects on himself, while the person who loves God in faith reflects on God. For love is exultant when it unites equals, but it is triumphant when it makes that which was unequal equal in love. Faith is the highest passion in a human being. Many in every generation may not come that far, but none comes further. Since my earliest childhood, a barb of sorrow has lodged in my heart. As long as it stays, I am ironic. If it is pulled out, I shall die. Don't forget to love yourself. The stone that was rolled before Christ's tomb might appropriately be called the philosopher's stone, because its removal gave not only the Pharisees, but now for 1800 years, the philosophers so much to think about. It happened that a fire broke out backstage in a theater. The clown came out to inform the public. They thought it was a jest and applauded. He repeated his warning. They shouted even louder. So I think the world will come to an end amid the general applause from all the wits who believe that it is a joke. Whoever has learned to be anxious in the right way has learned the ultimate. This, then, is the ultimate paradox of thought, to want to discover something that thought itself cannot think. Only the person who is essentially capable of remaining silent is capable of speaking essentially. What is a poet? An unhappy man who hides deep anguish in his heart, but whose lips are so formed that when the sigh and cry pass through them, it sounds like lovely music. When you were called, did you answer or did you not? Perhaps softly and in a whisper. It's better to get lost in the passion than to lose the passion. My time I divide as follows. The one half I sleep, the other half I dream. I never dream when I sleep. That would be a shame, because to sleep is the height of genius. People settle for a level of despair they can tolerate and call it happiness. You train yourself in the art of being mysterious to everyone. My dear friend, what if there were no one? Who cared about guessing your riddle? What pleasure would you then take in it? Life can only be understood going backward, but must be lived going forward. I would rather be a swineherd understood by the swine than a poet misunderstood by men. The truth is a snare. You cannot have it without being caught. You cannot have the truth in such a way that you catch it, but only in such a way that it catches you. Even the richest personality is nothing before he has chosen himself. And on the other hand, even what one might call the poorest personality is everything when he has chosen himself. For the great thing is not to be this or that, but to be oneself, and this everyone can be if he wills it. Life has its own hidden forces which you can only discover by living. Far from idleness being the root of all evil, it is rather the only true good. No one comes back from the dead. No one has entered the world without crying. No one is asked when he wishes to enter life, nor when he wishes to leave. Do you not know that there comes a midnight hour when everyone has to throw off his mask? Do you believe that life will always let itself be mocked? Do you think you can slip away a little before midnight to avoid this? I begin with the principle that all men are bores. Surely no one will prove himself so great a bore as to contradict me in this. Nothing is as heady as the wine of possibility. For it is not what happens to me that makes me great, but it is what I do.